your customer onboarding process will always be the same. So therefore, you should have automated emails in place that emphasize and reinforce the boundaries in your contract.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 132. So this guest I brought in, I've met her in the Gold Coast. I was up speaking at the Travel Trend Summit that I've also told you guys about recently on this show. And she was one of the fellow speakers as well. Now, she is what she does, I think is going to be so valuable for so many of you guys. She is the founder of a company actually called Found Legal. So found with two D's, legal, Found Legal. And her background is she's been a lawyer for 20 years. She went into e-commerce. She started a men's grooming e-commerce brand that grew to 6 figures. She now has a website where she actually sells legal templates. But what's really good is her membership, because it's advice that you get from her. And it's not just legal advice and access to templates, but it's more her brain around growing and scaling a business and your sort of systems and procedures and automation. And there's just so much she knows through her years of running businesses and working with business owners. So I really wanted to have this conversation and bring her on to you guys, because I'm going to be getting help from her personally. And I thought maybe some of you guys might be interested in this if you're looking to tighten up your agreements or your contracts, or you're looking into protecting your brand as you grow as well. So guys, are you ready to meet her? Let's bring Riz on the show. Riz, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here. I know. Guys, I brought Riz on because, as you heard in the intro, a little bit about her, how we met, but specifically because I actually think what she does will really help you in a lot of ways. Not only this conversation, but actually what she offers. So I'm kind of sort of just greedily sharing your resources with our listeners, knowing that they're going to love them.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you.
Perfect. Excellent. We're going to start with some tangible takeaways because you've been a lawyer, what was it, for 20 years, I think?
Yes. It's okay. Kind of scary to think about that. So yeah, 20.
Crazy.
20 and counting.
So you not only have probably gone through moments of stress and overwhelm in your practice, but also with the business owners that you help. So you probably could come from different angles with this question. But what are a few tips that you have for people that are growing their business, that are going through stressful, overwhelming moment, which is probably all the time? How do you handle those moments, or recommend people can get through those?
So the recommendations I'm going to make are not things that I always do consistently, but I always bring myself back to them as well, though. But there's a couple that are important, non-negotiables I've done from the beginning. One was simplify my systems, streamlining the processes, because it made me feel more in control of things, because my brain would be here, there, and everywhere. So I needed simplicity and not overcomplicate things. Having boundaries, around my time with family, me, and work. So I think I've been very clear about not working weekends unless I choose to or want to. So weekends have been kind of off the table for doing work. And once it reaches sort of, say, 5:30, 6 o'clock, I kind of down tools as well. So there's been a lot of that, and trying to fit in self-care for me as well, because as you probably know, when you run your own business, or even if you don't, if you're working for somebody else, you're kind of at the bottom of the list of priorities. Your family, your work, whatever it might be, comes first, and then you're right at the bottom. And before you know it, 20, 30 years have gone by, and what have you done for yourself? And I don't want that. So there's self-care, whether that's exercising, eating well, hanging out with friends, getting a massage, getting a facial, trying to find those little moments, shall we say. And the other things I did, and this is more psychological, I guess, was every time there was a small win, even a small one, like an extra sale in my business, whatever you want it to be, I would celebrate it as if it was this big, amazing deal, and that made me feel so good. So there was that was another thing that I did as part of that overall, you know, self care, I guess, and making sure I was looking after myself as well as the business, and not feeling that overwhelm. So
Yeah.
yeah, and identifying activities within the business that would help me build and refine things as well, and putting my energy into those things rather than um, you know, new shiny toys constantly. But that's not to say I haven't done that.
I want to know around, you just said putting your focus into specific activities. What, right now, with where you are with your business, what are some activities that you are focusing on that you know are is really helpful to the growth of your business?
So so I've been putting together processes that are going to be consistently used the same way each time, and nailing that and fine tuning that. So I'm about to do a relaunch of my membership, and this will be the fourth relaunch, and each time there's been learnings. I don't call them mistakes, they're learnings. And each time I've used that knowledge, that experience, and I refined and fine tuned until I've got a little system, shall we say. And that's not to say you won't need further refinement or fine tuning, but it really helps knowing there's that kind of process there that I can just take and start with that again rather than
Yeah.
reinventing the wheel. So it reduces the stress, you know, when you're dealing with a launch of whether it's a product or a service, there's a lot of moving parts. So
Mm.
knowing that you've already nailed all the practical administrative elements, it lessens that overwhelm, you
Yeah.
know. And so that's what I've been working on, because even with the best will in the world, you know, you kind of get sidetracked by you might see another business doing something. Oh, I should be doing that. Or you might hear a tip or something. Oh, maybe I should do that. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, stop. Focus on what's working, what's not working for you, and refine that. So I've learned that the hard way, I have to say. It's taken me a few years to work that one out, to focus and be consistent and have, you know, and nail what I've got. So that launching has been an experience in itself. It's
Mm.
exhausting mentally and physically. And so having that refinement of that processes has really helped me both, I guess, from that overwhelm perspective and feeling like, okay, I'm in control here. I'm in the driving seat, you know, so you don't feel like there's so much on your plate.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. And there's a couple of things that you've just said that I really like. One of them is simplification. You mentioned simplifying systems, and it sounds like that's a big theme for you across
Yes,
everything you're doing.
absolutely. Absolutely. And there's another reason for that as well, is that, you know, in order for me to keep costs low, I look, before I increase prices, I look at lots of other areas that I can improve to reduce and simplify, to
Yeah.
pass that benefit on to the end user, so to speak. Yeah. So I'm
Mm.
constantly, my brain is, you know, constantly at 200 miles an hour. So I need to slow it down. So yeah, so I'm constantly refining and simplifying. If I can do something in 3 steps rather than 20, I'm going to find the 3 steps.
Really smart. Really smart. The other thing you said I really like, which I share all the time in the marketing trainings that I do, is benchmarking against yourself. You're
Yes.
you're saying like, oh, don't go and listen to what other people are doing. How do you even know if what they're doing is working? You don't have access to their data, right?
Exactly. And also, you don't know where they are necessarily in their business journey. They might be 5 years ahead of you, and where
Yeah.
you're at, they might have been at 5 years before. So what they're doing might not apply to what you're doing, even if it's in a similar industry or the same industry, because they might be at a different time in their journey, so to speak,
So
versus
smart.
where you are. So it's, I mean, by all means, keep learning and be curious. Always be curious, but focus on your own, you know, methodologies and systems and processes, and obviously learn from those things. If there's experts out there going to help you, you know, reduce 20 steps down to 3, then Absolutely. But don't, think that you have to be competing with them and at their level. Because
Exactly.
you're not going to have the budget. B, you might not have the same size team or a team, to do all of that. So focus on where you're at.
Smart. Now, we're going to go into your journey a little bit because, as we established prior, you're a lawyer of 20 years, but now you have this membership and sort of this e commerce platform. So, I want to understand, how did you get from point A to point B and what made you take that journey?
Uh, okay. So, um, when I used to work as a lawyer, I worked first in private practice, and then I worked in house for big corporations, and I was constantly kind of drawn to the business side of uh, the work rather than the just the purely legal elements, if you like. I wanted to know why this deal was happening, why we were doing this contract, what was it involving, etc. And I also got a little bit bored, shall we say. So I started an e-commerce business selling male grooming products, and that was a part-time side hustle that I took to six
Yeah.
figures. And I absolutely loved that whole business element, that whole starting the business, growing it, making so many mistakes along the way, by the way, and just fine tuning it and working with. I started working with web designers, SEO specialists, social media marketers, graphic designers, and I realized I was getting their contracts or sometimes not getting a contract at all. And that's when the cogs started turning. I was thinking, I wonder if what would it look like? How would it be possible? And I also loved using Shopify, and I still do to this day. I just adore how Shopify works and how simple it is for my brain,
Yeah.
to be honest. And so I was thinking, well, how can I do this and put it together? What would that look like? And that's how the template side of the business started, basically. So although I'm a lawyer and I love doing what I do, I adore doing the business side and helping people and teaching people. And I didn't want to just, they say give a person fish, they'll eat for a day if you give them the fishing rod, you know. I
Yeah.
don't know if I've said it correctly, but what I wanted to do was provide them and the message was be proactive. As a lawyer, I know when you're not proactive, it costs you more money, double, triple the costs, that you thought you were saving at the beginning when you should have been proactive, plus the stress, of when things go wrong. And I thought, well, what if I, sell these templates, but what does that look like? How are they going to know what to fill in and where to fill it in? And how do they know about all these things? How am I going to put that across? So when I started the template side of the business, I included user guides, and then I started adding video guides as well. So that's how the template side, I've been fine tuning and refining it to make it and taking on board feedback as well from my clients and constantly finding ways in which that one on one can be one to many, and those many can benefit from that as well at the same time. It's a win-win, right?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's how the template side of it started, and my love for
Okay.
Shopify when I was running the e-commerce kind of melded together because I was adamant I was going to sell digital products off Shopify. And as you know, 5 years ago, Shopify was still kind of not quite, perfect for service based businesses. Even if you're selling digital products, but it was still my preferred platform, and I made it work through a combination of using different software. So I pieced together Zapier and
Yeah.
other bits and pieces in order to work on Shopify, and I felt like it was worth it, and I still do because I'm still there. I'm still on Shopify. And so that's how the template side of it began. And I still to this day work with that niche of clients to this day. And I love working with them. They're just incredible and so creative. And my goal is to make sure that they don't have to stress about the legals or find it overwhelming. And I guess one of the things I learned both from being a lawyer in-house and then setting up the legal business was that, making that overly complex less so, making it simple, easy to digest, easy to understand, without all the fancy words, because there's no need for it. It doesn't need to have all that legalese. So that was the other thing that was important to me, the simplicity, making it simple and keeping it simple as well. Yeah, so that's where the template side of it started, and I guess from there then I'll talk about the membership
We'll
as
talk
well,
through the
but
membership. Yeah.
yeah.
So, do you still do the male grooming brand, or is that done?
No,
Okay.
that's done. But it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned so
Impressed.
much. Yeah.
So, a couple of things you said when we had lunch in the Gold Coast that really stuck with me were the use of contracts to manage expectations, which I found really creative. And I never thought of it from that perspective. And the fact that you did say to me, it doesn't have to have all this jargon in it. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Why? Because you think it's meant to, because that's how it's always been done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No.
um, yeah. So the idea with the templates I really liked, and just your membership. And I think what we'll do now is we'll dive into your membership, and specifically if you can think of somebody that is a member of yours, let's walk through how they utilize the membership and go a little bit more granular into this so people can get their
Yeah,
head around how it
absolutely.
works.
Absolutely. So with the membership, I didn't want to make it overly complex. And I was kind of mindful that if I was giving one-on-one legal advice, it becomes expensive, even in a membership that were to offer that. So I didn't want to offer a membership where I was doing one-on-one, because that defeats the whole purpose of the membership.
Yeah.
So what I did was I took, over the last nearly 5 years now, questions I've been asked, a lot of the questions are the same. A lot of the questions are the same. My intellectual property, I've got issue with somebody copying my work. How do I protect that? Oh, my brand name, somebody's stolen it. How do I, so constantly the same kind of questions were coming up. And I thought, well, why don't I create a membership that has advice in there, but it's general, but it still applies, So I started thinking about that and mapping out and trying to work out how that would work and how that could help people. So the membership I've kind of launched, I guess, is a membership where you can ask unlimited questions through our portal. You have access to little mini bite-sized videos of frequently asked questions, like the ones I just mentioned, the examples I just gave, and more. Access to templates as well that are not necessarily available on the website yet. You get exclusive access to those, and other templates as well that help you run your business. Now, the reason for that membership was, remember how I talked about the templates and, how do I get this contract signed and how do I complete the contract? Well, I wanted that membership to go into that almost like, we're holding your hand through the membership. So if you were to join the membership and have access to the templates, you can ask us as many questions as you want about that contract, for example. If you're still not sure, if the video guide and the user guide wasn't enough, for example. And, we've had members who've joined us who are at the beginning of the journey. We've had members who've joined us who are 12 months into their business journey as well. And, for our members, that there's confusion over legals, obviously, feeling overwhelmed by, what kind of contracts do I need? That lack of confidence in regards to the legal side of their business as well. And mostly the cost as well involved. So imagine having to pay me every time you have to ask me a question, because that's what would typically happen, right? If you reach out to a lawyer and you want to ask a question, there's a fee involved. So that's kind of where the Legally Legit Lounge kind of came about. And it was basically a space for them to not only access those legal templates, but get regular guidance and support as well to stay ahead of the curve as their businesses evolve. And to give you an example, one of our members is a creator, and she was constantly worried about her content being copied and misused,
Okay.
and she just lacked that confidence of, because you don't know what you don't know, right? So when she joined the lounge, she was able to implement the tailored legal templates that we offer, because we've got course T's and C's and website T's and C's and things like that. But also, she was able to ask us questions around intellectual property. We had FAQs around it, and there were FAQs around, how to apply a copyright notice, making sure what kind of legal documents you should have in place, and her being able to access them. And so, having that ability to ask us questions, access to those templates, and knowing which ones she needed and how to utilize them, that really gave her a lot of peace of mind, as well. And then we also offer, and it's me doing it, a monthly mentoring session, which is a group session, and
Okay.
an opportunity for my members to ask me questions either on the topic I'm mentoring on. And I do a deep dive into one topic rather than lots of topics, if you see what I mean, in those
Yeah.
mentoring sessions as well. And then those recordings are available to the members as well afterwards. So the goal there is kind of almost like holding your hand as you and guiding you through that initial startup phase or that growth phase when you're ready to scale and you need to hire employees or bring on contractors. So we've got templates for those things as well. But it's not just about those things. And I remember talking to you about the boundaries. So we educate people through our templates and through the membership in particular around, well, when you sign up a client, the contract says these are the obligations on you and these are the obligations on the client. What have you got set up in your systems and processes to help you? So we guide them through that, because they don't necessarily connect the dots straight away. And it takes them being burnt once or twice before they connect the dots about having those boundaries that back up what their contract says, and it makes for a better customer experience as well, weirdly enough,
Yeah.
or maybe not weirdly enough. And to give you an example, we had a situation where a member used one of our contracts, and she signed up, and she said, she messaged me and she says, Riz, this client signed, but she hasn't paid the deposit, and I've started doing the work. And I was like, okay, let's step back a second. Why have you started doing the work when you haven't been given paid the deposit? Let's stop, pause,
Yeah.
send your email with the invoice, and what does your contract say? Oh, well, work cannot commence until deposit is paid. I said, excellent. Now send the email that says that. You don't have to point to clause X says this. You just say in your email nicely and use the link. And as soon as you get that, we can get to work. And that worked. It was something as simple as that. And just guiding them through those things. We've saved clients money through helping them, guide them about scope creep, because their contract allows them to charge if it's above and beyond what's in the contract. So
Amazing.
giving them that confidence and telling them, hey, your contract says all these things, but what do your processes do? Do you have emails in place to have this conversation? Because I appreciate that not everyone has the confidence to have those conversations as well, notwithstanding what's in a contract. So guiding them through how to have those conversations, and it doesn't have to be verbal or in person. It can be via their email template, because the onboarding of a customer is going to always be the same, right? Your customer onboarding process will always be the same. So therefore you should have automated emails in place that emphasize and reinforce the boundaries in your contract without having to have that horrible conversation of, well, clause X says I can charge you interest now because you haven't paid me for 7 days.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so a couple of things on this. You're way more than a lawyer. You're like a business mentor, and you're
Yes.
like almost an operations consultant as well.
Yes.
So many of the people I talk to and interview around business growth, they say you have to have your SOPs, you have to have your systems and
Yes.
procedures in place. You are doing that as part of this whole process. You're actually getting people to
Yes.
think about what they need in place for what you said, onboarding all the way through, right?
Absolutely. And I've even done mentoring sessions on onboarding clients that
Okay.
talks about all these things. I've got a mentoring session on onboarding employees as well, and contractors, and what does that look like and why it's important, and
Interesting.
having those, ongoing conversations, because when I say conversations, it can be email conversations, right? So it's having those ongoing conversations, because if you think about it, when you sign up your new client for the first time, right? That client is really excited about what you're going to deliver, you know? So if you're a graphic designer, they cannot wait to receive those, graphics. And just to give you an example, I've recently engaged a graphic designer to create new graphic design for our template covers. And
Yep.
I am so excited about that. And she happens to be using one of my templates to sign me up. And it was
Excellent.
really good to see. And then I noticed one or two things she hadn't done. So I messaged her and I said, hey, fine, by the way, and I'm going to pay you and I'm going to do all these things. But your contract allows you to do this, but you've done this. Stop doing that. You need to do it this way.
That's
So
great.
I had that conversation with her, and that reinforces for me why having the membership is actually a good idea, because I can remind them through that, because there is a tendency to be so grateful you signed on a client, that you forget to stick to your boundaries, in
Yeah.
the excitement of signing on a client, especially if you're new, or if you're scaling and you're bringing on more and you want to keep
Yeah.
that more and more coming, and you're afraid that, somebody will close the tap, maybe, so it's trying to find that balance between that, need to make sure, income's coming in so the rent or the mortgage can be paid, and having those boundaries and reminding yourself you need to stick to them because they help both parties. For me, having the communication with the graphic designer, she was keeping me in the loop around where we were at with the work she was doing for me, and I liked knowing where she was at, because I had my own deadlines and timeframes I'm working towards. So I made sure she was aware of that, and we've been in communication
Yeah.
around that. It doesn't have to take much to keep a client happy, and you can automate those things. So you can automate the communication. Hey, this is where we're at. Not long now, you're going to be receiving it soon, and having those little breadcrumb conversations throughout, because sometimes all a client wants to know is when are they going to receive what they've engaged you for as well.
So smart. Okay, so do you help? You said earlier that you sort of help people in startup phase or maybe 12 months into a business, but you're mentioning scaling as well. So can people join if they are further down the business process and in like a growth phase?
Absolutely, because we support businesses at any phase of their
Okay.
journey, including if they're ready to sell their business.
Okay.
So we're there for every stage in the journey,
Yeah.
and I'm really keen to make sure that whatever stage you're at, that you're proactive about it. You're proactive about what that's going to look like, and think 2 to 5 steps ahead, like on a chess. I don't play chess myself, but so like a chessboard, being a couple of steps ahead of the game, so to speak, mentally, as to where your business is going. So
Yeah.
the businesses who are starting out, and like I catch them when they're starting out, so to speak, is that I explain to them, that business plan, everyone tells you to do a business plan. Well, it's actually kind of important. And that business plan should incorporate your business strategy. What do you want to do in 5 years' time with your business? Do you want to sell it? Do you want to keep it? Do you want to, what is it you want? What are your plans for it? Do you want to, have you got global world domination in mind? So it's getting them to think, because depending on their answers, things like trademarks are going to be very, very important. Having their IP, locked down and protected is going to be important as well,
Yeah.
because there is value in those things to sell or license, you know. And one of the things I always tell my members and anyone who works with me is, you may be small, but you got to think big.
Yeah, absolutely. Ah, Well, I have to ask you a question about AI, of course,
Okay,
because
of
of the
course.
space that you're in. I'm dying to know, what are your thoughts on people that go to ChatGPT and ask it to write a contract? What are your thoughts about AI coming into it?
Oh, okay. So I think AI is amazing. I love
Yeah,
it. I
yeah,
use it. I use it to um, come up with some ideas for me sometimes, around blog content. I tell it, right, I'm going to be writing, a blog on these things and I want you to organize what does that all look like, and that's fine.
yeah,
But there's a couple of things you need to think about. One is, do you have any kind of legal experience when you're putting that contract together through ChatGPT? Is what ChatGPT telling you 100% true and correct? And how will you know if you don't have the legal expertise? The other is, and this is not just about contracts, by the way, but when you're creating something with ChatGPT, you need to be mindful as to who owns the intellectual property.
yeah.
Because under Australian law, some kind of human effort needs to be involved. It needs to be original as well in order for you to own it. So if ChatGPT is doing all the hard work and you're just putting in one or two comments and it's created an ebook for you, or I don't know, a blog or something for you, then who owns it? Who owns the intellectual property in that? It's muddy waters at the moment. The law still has to catch up to some extent, but it's something to be mindful of as well. So in terms of the contracts, if you're a contract expert and you know what you're doing, maybe it's possible, but be careful because ChatGPT is not always accurate. There was a case in the US. I don't know if it was a case as such, but I know a lawyer there got a real massive telling off from the court because they got ChatGPT to organize some submissions for them and they were inaccurate, and they got into
Oh,
so much trouble for that. So yeah, and that was a lawyer doing it, by the way. So they got into a lot of trouble for that. So what I've heard about ChatGPT and what I've seen for myself is ChatGPT is not always accurate,
yeah,
and you need to have the necessary expertise. I'm pretty sure, right, that if a marketing expert put in some of my ideas into ChatGPT, they would have a better result than me. Why? Because they're experts at marketing. I'm not, you know. I wouldn't
interesting
do.
point.
I probably wouldn't get this same result or as good a result with mapping out, say, a marketing strategy as would a marketer. I
Yeah,
doubt it. You know.
valid point. Thank you for answering that question because everyone's talking about it. Like, what can and can't you
Yeah.
use it for? And it's really
Yeah.
interesting the point you said around creation of content as well that has to be human and original. So I didn't know that one
Absolutely.
either.
But what the thing I do love about ChatGPT is it can help simplify things or streamline things or speed
Yeah,
things up a little. It can do those things. I think it can be a wonderful tool and is a wonderful tool already because AI is used in things like the chatbots that you use on your websites.
totally.
For example, Klaviyo I use for my email marketing. It uses AI,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of amazing, incredible ways in which AI is helping small businesses. And the other thing I love is that AI has helped small businesses be almost on a level playing field with the bigger businesses with the bigger budgets. You know,
Yeah.
it's made it easier for small businesses basically to be and be in existence, I think, and it has many benefits, but just be cautious. If it's too good to be true, sometimes it is.
Riz, I love how you think so much and just you're so much more than a lawyer. And like I was saying, you're more of a business mentor and the way you help your clients is fantastic. Like you
Oh,
genuinely
thank you.
care.
I do.
So speaking of that, for your membership, who is the perfect person? Because you do specialize, I know, in creatives and then that space. But
Yeah.
if you could talk through industries that could join and get a great deal of benefit, tell
Oh,
us more.
absolutely. So any online business or offline, bricks and mortar business as well, but
Yep.
predominantly online businesses. So think photographers, graphic designers, course creators, businesses who run memberships. If you want to run a podcast, social media marketers, creative agencies that have everything under one roof, like email marketing, social media marketing. We have contracts for influencers or brands who hire influencers. We've got beauty businesses, because I still am very fond of the beauty business industry. So we have templates for beauty businesses as well. And we've recently started putting up things like holiday rentals. So anyone who owns an Airbnb, we've even got that now. But yeah, so predominantly it's those creatives that I've mentioned, graphic designers, web designers, photographers, and then, businesses like social media marketers. I'm trying to think, surface pattern designers, interior designers. One of our best selling templates is interior designer services agreement, actually. We also do e-commerce kits. So we've got a chargeback kit, for example, and a e-commerce website T's and C's, privacy policy, shipping and refund returns, those kind of things as well. So because I obviously love e-commerce. So we've got something for everyone pretty much, and we've got over 150 plus templates, and then we have the membership, and you can actually, this is something that's going to be happening. So I don't know if I might get in trouble for mentioning, but we're going to be offering 2 different tiers of memberships, and one tier will include a lot of the templates that you see on our website.
Okay.
So you can access the templates and all the video and user guides through the membership itself, as well as then access to us for questions. And when I say us, I mean the lawyers. You're not going to get a VA answering your questions. It'll be me. Most of the time it's me, because I love doing that. I love that part of the business, and helping educate. And sometimes I see things through the question. I think, hang on a minute, have you thought about this? And and talk to them about that as well. So yeah, I love watching people, what's that word, become confident and grow and thrive. And it's like, and you sit back and you almost feel like a parent. Oh, I helped there. I did that. I helped that. They did the hard work. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking credit for that, but I'm like, oh, I was a part of that journey.
Definitely.
So yeah.
Oh, how do people sign up? How do they learn more about you?
So we're currently in launch mode for the membership. So there is a wait list that you can access on our Instagram. There's a link there, or on our website, which is findwith2dslegal.com. You'll find me most of the time living on Instagram, so DM us. It's not a problem. And our templates are on the website as well. And if you've got any questions, we do have a chat bot that you can ask, and sometimes it might be live. We might have somebody there answering questions live as well. And so mostly you can find us on Instagram or our website. Yeah.
Excellent. I recommend you guys go and check it out. I mean, just the beyond the contracts, just the advice and the community that you can tap into is phenomenal. So as we start to wrap up, are there any hacks, tools, tips, ideas, or things you want to leave our listeners with in their phase of growth to limit their overwhelm?
Well, if you're in your phase of growth, I'm hoping, if you haven't already, and if you haven't, start now, is put in some SOP, standard operating procedures. Put them in place before you hire would be best, because once you hire, it's harder to convince them to start using that new software you're wanting to use. Or if you change how you run your business, it's harder to get everyone on board sometimes. So make sure you have your systems and processes in place. That will lessen the overwhelm, I promise. And it will help you build momentum as well. And be consistent. Be consistent with everything you do. When I first started out, and look, I've talked about, you might be small, but think big. When I started out, it was just me and a website, and I made sure I put Acuity on there, and you can use Calendly or other, depending on what service you provide as well, to take the call bookings. And I use Zoom because I didn't want to have the cost and expense of leasing an office. So use Zoom, and Acuity connected the two and made sure Zapier was in there somewhere, so that meant that I wasn't needing a VA straight away, or an assistant, or another lawyer straight away. So I building that momentum one step at a time through systems and processes helped. And before I started hiring, I made sure that the way I wanted things done were documented, so that when somebody came on board, they knew, well, this is how we do our newsletters, and this is how we do our email campaigns, and this is how we, how we sell our templates, and this is how we talk about our templates. So teaching them all of that, so it's still done, because sometimes I can be a bit of a control freak, and I like things done a certain way, So having those processes in place helps, and it also reduces your time answering hundreds of questions from your employees.
Fantastic advice. Thank you so much for being here and sharing so much
You're
wisdom.
welcome.
And it's been fantastic to have this little chat as well. Thank you, Riz.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.